Welcome to our midweek Bible study. and this is the Bible study for Wednesday evening, um, August the 4th. And we continue in our journey on the Sermon on the Mount. And we have not gotten very far, but we are there. And today, our text is found in Matthew chapter 5 and verse 14 through 16. And it follows up from what we talked about last week when we looked at when Jesus says, "You are the salt of the earth." And then in this passage that we're going to be looking at today, he says, "You are the light of the world." Now, what I want us to make sure that we catch even before we read the text is that he begins by giving us a title. And he says, this is what we are. We are the light of the world. And so we need to look at this as a believer and say, what is Jesus saying about me and the task that I have? And so let's look at what Matthew has to share with us as he records for us Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. Matthew chapter 5, beginning in verse 14. Jesus said to his disciples and those who had gathered, he says, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." Have you ever been in a place of just utter darkness? Now, I'm not talking necessarily here about the spiritual case, and which we'll talk about in just a moment. But have you ever been in a place where it is so dark that you cannot even see your hand in front of your face if you tried? I have been in a couple of those kind of places. The one that probably most of us have maybe experienced is when we visit some kind of cavern. And I can remember as a child visiting the caverns in Carlsbad, New Mexico, and going into those caverns and the guy taking us to a place and then all of a sudden just turning all the lights out, and it's just pitch black. It's just, you can't see it all. And when I did this as a child, this was a long time before iPhones and before all of us carried a little flashlight in our pocket like with an iPhone. And so there was just no light at all until the guy turned the lights back on. And it was kind of scary for a young boy like I was at the time to think about the darkness and how dark it was. And so I was thrilled when the light came back on and I could once again see him, our guide, and my parents, and my brothers, and that made me feel much more comfortable, because being in darkness is really scary. Just think about that for a moment. Our world is in utter darkness without Christ. And people who do not have and know Christ are in darkness according to Scripture. And so that's kind of a scary thing to know that that's where people are. And so when Jesus looked at his disciples and he says, "You are the light of the world," he was sharing with them that you bring some hope and you bring some other things. Let's think about it. How are lights used today? One is, most of us have we become so accustomed to lights it is very difficult for us to think about it any other way. We have we have so many much there's so much light in our world today. We have what we call light pollution, and in Arlington, Texas, where I live, if I go outside at night, the light pollution just of Arlington and the Metroplex, it just kind of ruins the ability to see very many stars in the sky at night and to really appreciate the sky. And so we have lots of light, but we don't just use light to brighten up a room anymore. That's one thing that we do. But lights are used for other things. They're used to be seen and for us to be able to see each other. But we also think about that lights um, are used as for warning. Um, they're used as a warning signal for some. And when you think about a warning or directions that lights give, is like a red light, a green light, flashing lights, all of those kind of things. It's a warning. When we see a fire truck coming and their lights are flashing, it, it, those lights share with us a warning that the truck is coming and that we need to move out of the way. And when we come to a railroad crossing, if the lights are flashing, we know that that's a warning that a train is coming, that we don't need to be on the tracks when the train is coming. So lights are used as warning, but we also use them to guide us. All of us have lights on our cars, and we're used to that. And so when it gets dark, we use those lights to shine the direction in order to be able to guide us where we want to go. And maybe even a better illustration of that is if you're flying and you're flying at night, the pilot, as he comes in to land the plane, the airstrip that he lands on is lit, and there's lights up and down it so that he knows where the landing strip is, even long time before he gets there, because in the darkness he wouldn't be able to see it. And so the landing lights guide us and guide the plane in. And so lights can be used as a warning. They can be used as a guide. They can use just to help us see things that we see. And so when we think about what Jesus said here about you are the light of the world, he is basically saying in the world in which we live, we can light things up so people can see them. We can be a warning light to the dangers maybe that are taking place in our culture. We can be that warning. And we also have the ability as believers to be that guiding light, to guide people to Christ. And so what a great name he has given us, and a command. He says, you are the light of the world. Your world and my world. What a task we have when we think about that. And then he doesn't stop there, and he says, a city on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. The first thing he says there is, you can't hide light. You can't hide it. You're in a dark room and somebody opens their iPad and it produces light. You can see it across the room. And if you're out somewhere in the middle of the night, you can see a flashlight maybe a long distance off in the distance. Because light is made to be seen. You can't hide it. As believers, we need to see that our witness, that we have as a witness, as followers of Christ, in order that God has said, You are the light. We are the ones that bring light and shine the shine upon Jesus. And we we share danger and warnings, but we also guide people to Christ. And we make it much harder than it is. We make it much more difficult and thinking this is going to be real difficult. But what Jesus is saying to us here in this passage is if if we know him as a follower of Christ and we know Christ just by the way we live, we're going to produce light in this world. And people are going to notice those things. Through the years in ministry, and I've been in ministry for approximately 45 years. And early on in my ministry, I really thought that preaching was the number one thing that was the most important thing and important aspect of my ministry. And I still spend a lot of time working on my message, and trying to figure out just the best way to put things. But through the years, I've pastored several different churches, and you can go back and talk to people who have known me in the past, who I've been their pastor for years, some of them, and you can ask them this question: do you remember any sermon that Dr. Dan ever preached to you? And most of them probably can't remember very many, or they probably can't remember any sermon that I preached. And even with all the work that I put in, they probably can't remember any. They might remember a story that I told, or they might remember some highlight of one text if you were to be opening that passage again. But they can't remember. But what they do remember is my life. They remember my character. They remember how I live my life before them and with them. This is why Jesus says, you are the light. People that you work with and the people in your family, they might not hear everything that you say. They might not remember the words that you share. But they will remember how you lived and how you lived your life. And so when Jesus says you are the light of the world and your light can't be hidden, and he says you're not to hide it, this is what he's talking about. You are the light. Your life is that witness. But, Jesus goes on and he says, in the same way, let your light shine before others so they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. We are to shine. Now, I have grandkids that they love to play with my flashlights. And they know where I keep them. And I have, every time they're here, invariably some or one of them find my flashlights and they bring them out and they begin to play with them. And we have to remind these grandkids when they're playing with my flashlights, don't shine them right in people's face because you will blind them and it hurts and they can't see. I just want to give you this warning as a believer, and as you let your light shine, we can be blinding sometimes. And I don't think that's exactly what Jesus wanted us to do. I don't think he wants us to blind people with our bright light. And often that's maybe what happens if we are not careful. But he wants us to shine. I don't care if my grandkids play with my flashlights. I enjoy watching them be entertained by all of those kind of things. But I don't want the bright light shined in my face. And I think most people who are maybe seeking direction in their life, maybe need warning in their life, they appreciate a warning light. They appreciate a guiding light. They appreciate you when you let your light shine. But they don't want to be blinded. Shine, but don't blind, is what I would say. Let your life really reflect your walk with Christ and simply let it shine. And people will notice. They will notice your good works, and God will be glorified. What a great text. What a challenge for us to be a witness for Christ and to let our light shine. And if we put this with last week's lesson, when we talked about shaking the salt and, influencing people. And here he's talking about, he says, in those verses, he says, you are the salt. You are to be the influence and be those things that can change things. But again, you don't want too much salt on your food. So don't be salty and don't be blinding. But shake your salt and shine your light. And in doing so, you can be a powerful witness and you can give people hope in the midst of great darkness. So that's our lesson for today. I hope that you'll be with us on Sunday in our worship service on Sunday. I know that some are, because of COVID, this new variant of COVID has hit and it's difficult. And so if you feel uncomfortable and you want to worship at home, that's great, and we appreciate that. And or if you come and you'd like to wear a mask and you want to wear a mask for protection, that is, you have all the freedom in the world to do that. And you won't be looked on down for doing that at all. In fact, I'll be wearing a mask because I just want everybody to feel comfortable. And I would, not my preference, but I want to wear a mask in order, if that helps somebody else come to church and be in church, I'm going to wear a mask to do that. And so, but that's your choice. But we want you, if you're able to come, we'd love for you to be in worship service. And if you still feel uncomfortable doing that, that's great. That's fine. Please join us online on our YouTube channel at Bethesda Baptist Church. And I hope that you'll take time to look over the prayer sheet and pray for the things that have been listed, and especially be in prayer for the Pastor Search Committee in their search. And they're meeting on a regular basis, and they're in the process of narrowing some things down, and we'll begin talking to some candidates soon. And so they do need your prayers, and so I hope that you'll be in prayer for them for your next pastor. All right, have a good day. We'll see you on Sunday.